registration. We don't want to see that. And basically we want to see a bag them and tag them deal. Bag them and make them register as sex offenders. And the communities that we go into, we're advocating a rigorous monitoring and visible signs of vigilance. These are the two foundations of our community program in terms of what we, for example, I'll be talking to one of the city council women here in Columbia, Missouri, sometime in the next couple weeks. We're exchanging emails right now, and she's asked if we can get together for a meeting. And what we're going to do is present a program that we have for the civic, for the city governments to implement, and it's called, a comprehensive child safety, community child safety plan. It includes, we take both public safety and public health issues into account. We support a curfew, for example, which is a public safety issue, and it's not a public safety issue because of crime. It's a public safety issue because it's safer for kids to be home after 10 o'clock at night than it is for them to be out on the street. And then we take a public health approach to it. We advocate a city ordinance that makes the city a Code Adam city, that every retail and commercial entity in the city is required by the public health department to have Code Adam procedures in place. And the public health department, at random, will send an inspector by, just like they do for restaurants, to make sure that those the protocols of the Code Adam protocols are in place. And we'd like to see, when you come into the city limits, a sign right by the population sign that says Columbia is a Code Adam city. And we want to see safe houses. We want to see signs on, we want children to know that if they get lost or if they are taken someplace and need to get help, that they can go to the area recreation center and there will be a sign on it that says this is a safe house, to the fire department, to various places in a town where children know, all children in town know that that's where you go if you're lost, if you're hurt, if you've been kidnapped, whatever. So we say visible signs of vigilance and rigorous monitoring, and you let people know that that's what you're doing. You let people know that we're paying attention, we know who you are, we know where you are, and we're watching you. And the same thing is true for the kids. Kids, it's not your responsibility to stay safe. Please help us in that, but it's our responsibility, and we're taking that responsibility very seriously.
Had you heard about human trafficking and child trafficking previously?
Yes, I've seen a couple of television programs about it, and that, of course, is part of it's the case we were just talking about. It very well could be a situation having to do with we don't know where the little girl is now. She could be in another part of the country, and still in grave danger. But yes, whatever organizations are involved who are concentrating on human trafficking are doing a good job of being visible. We're seeing it here in mid-Missouri. It was on a local program not long ago, and I've seen some national reports. So I am aware of that.
What does an organization like yours mean to grandparents?
Well, grandparents, we chose that because my wife and I are grandparents, and one of the reasons that the Sean Hornbeck case caught my attention, excuse me, was the fact that I am a grandparent. We have two wonderful little kids that fortunately live not far from us. And of course, when I saw the Sean Hornbeck case, I thought, who could do that to these little children? And as Jim Murray always says, nobody loves grandchildren more than their grandparents. They may love them as much, but nobody loves them more. And so that was an indicator. That and the fact that we're setting up part of our civic action program is case watch. Too many times when these molestation and rape cases do get to court, the victim isn't there in the courtroom. Sometimes their family isn't there because it's too painful for them to be there when the sentencing takes place. And this crime is processed silently, and very often, as I say, it's just processed. There isn't any real justice involved. So we want to have people sitting out in the galley, in the courtroom, that the judge looks out and sees that the community is there, and that there's going to be a community discussion about the fact that they only gave the person 14 months or whatever the sentence is. We need to, and this is definitely a mad model. They do that for drunk driving cases, and as victim advocates, which we are not necessarily victim advocates. We have a policy, an organizational policy, that we do not have any contact with children as representatives of grandparents and others on watch, nor are we allowed to have any contact with molesters as representatives of grandparents and others on watch, for various reasons, but primarily just so that we can keep boundaries set up that will. We don't want any of the kinds of things that happen in camp counseling and that sort of thing, where people join the organization for the purpose of being seen as safe people. So for grandparents, it means an opportunity to do something really meaningful in a time when some people are searching for meaningful things to do. I think, for me anyway, this is the most important thing that I've done in my life, and it's probably going to be the most important thing that I ever do, other than, loving and supporting the family and community. I don't think that I'm alone in that feeling. I think we're going to put together, and it is working out this way. We're going to be putting together a nationwide organization of grandparents and others. We have a member in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania now, who is 39 or 40 years old, and as far as I know, has no children. But is committed to doing something about child molestation and rape. And I think that there are more people than you would generally think who, as they become aware of what this crime means, how devastating it is to the individuals and to society as a whole, that we'll have a lot of people joining in our mission.
Can you tell us about the emotional component to your work and these types of cases?
Yeah, it's very difficult. That's another thing that we didn't necessarily anticipate. The initial feeling that I had with the Sean Hornbeck case was anger, and of course, anger is but as the president, as President Obama has pointed out, anger is not a sustaining emotion. If you do something like this, GrOW, Grandparents and Others on Watch, has to exist for as long as the crime of child rape and molestation exists, and which means it has to be around for as long as humanity is around. So the emotional aspect is difficult to deal with. I mean, I remember the week before Easter of this year, of 2009, we had 3 presentations. 2 were to Sunrise Optimist clubs. One was over in Fulton, Missouri, which is about, 30 miles from here or something, and maybe a little more. And the other one was here in Columbia the next day. And then on Saturday, Easter Saturday, I had a 8 o'clock presentation to the Lions Club in Jefferson City, which is another 30 miles. Well, that was the week that Sandra Cantu, the little 8-year-old girl in California, was killed. Excuse me. And the thing about that particular case is that they had videotape on the surveillance camera of the little girl skipping on the day she was killed, getting off the school bus coming and skipping past the camera. And that was the last images of her. Well, that was very difficult to do, to talk about at that time. I mean, because as I say, a lot of these crimes are never given a face, and they're kept as quiet as possible. Usually when they're reported in the newspaper, they're on the third or fourth page, and the only ones that make the electronic media are ones that have some sensation to them, or have videotape involved, like the Sandra Cantu thing, murder. That week was a very difficult week for Joy and me. We had, on top of it, we had our grandchildren come over to spend the night on that Friday night, on Good Friday. So we had the constant playing of that image on the news. We had presentations that we were making having to do with that crime. And I have to say that there were a few times when I got a little more emotional than I probably should have during those presentations. So this is actually the business of preventing the crime of child rape is an emotional business, and I don't think we can have it any other way. We have to be cautious. I mean, people are uncomfortable. I mean, you have to visualize what our operation is like. We come into a civic club where their normal business has nothing to do with this at all. There are 30 to 50 people usually in the room. They don't know us from Adam. That we send 2 people to do it, one for crowd control and do the handouts, and the other to do the 15 minutes. We get 15 minutes to make a presentation, so it's a very brief thing. I found out that I can't do anything in 15 minutes, so Joy, my wife, and Pam, a volunteer here in town, have done all the presentations except the first ones, because once I get started, you know, and they're very polite people. I mean, even though they have to get back to work, usually it's noon to 1, they will sit there an extra 10 minutes. And the response has been very good. But what we've learned is that you have to keep it, you have to tone down the emotional content, because for one thing, you'll scare some people, and other people will become more uncomfortable than they already are, because we're talking about rape here. We're talking about the worst kind of rape, or child rape. Not that you can quantify, you know, the extent of good, better, best, or bad. So we found that we have to kind of do the best we can to not become emotional. I have a problem with that, because I am still angry. I still walk around thinking about this frequently, different things, aspects of it, and I find myself, you know, muttering to myself and being angry. So it's a balancing that you have to do. You have to think in terms of how you can talk to the community in such a way as that they can listen relatively comfortably,